North London, 1977. A typical working-class family, the Hodgsons, lived at 284 Green Street. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother, struggled to raise her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny and Billy. Life wasn't easy, but it was theirs. They had no idea what awaited them. The house on Green Street was ordinary, a 2-story terrace with a small garden. It held no sinister history, no whispers of strange happenings. The Hodgsons were just another family trying to make ends meet. But all of that was about to change. Something dark was about to awaken in their home. The children were typical. Margaret, the eldest, was responsible and quiet. 12-year-old Janet was imaginative and full of life. Young Johnny and Billy were rambunctious boys, always into some mischief. They were a family, a unit, facing the world together. They had no idea that soon they would face something unimaginable together. The days leading up to the haunting were unremarkable. Summer was ending and the children were preparing to return to school. Peggy was busy with her job, trying to keep everything afloat. There was no warning, no premonition of the terror that was about to grip their lives. No one could have predicted the nightmare that was about to begin. August 31st, 1977. The night started like any other. The children were getting ready for bed. Peggy checked on them, kissed them goodnight, and turned off the lights. Outside, the wind howled, a harbinger of the storm brewing inside 284 Green Street. Janet, always the light sleeper, was awakened by a strange sound. A soft rapping, like someone knocking lightly on her bedroom wall. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding in her chest. She listened intently, but the sound didn't return. Dismissing it as her imagination, Janet tried to go back to sleep, but the night was far from over. Suddenly the room grew cold, an unnatural chill that seemed to seep into Janet's bones. The rapping returned, this time more insistent, more urgent. Janet called out to her brother, Johnny, who shared the room with her. "Johnny," she whispered, her voice trembling, "did you hear that?" Johnny, groggy with sleep, mumbled something incoherent. But Janet knew she wasn't imagining things. The rapping grew louder, spreading from the walls to the furniture. It was as if something was trying to get their attention. Fear coiled in the pit of Janet's stomach, a growing sense of dread that something was terribly wrong. The knocking escalated into a cacophony of bangs and crashes. Furniture moved seemingly on its own, scraping against the floor. Terrified, Janet and Johnny huddled together under the covers. Their cries woke Peggy, who rushed to their room. A heavy chest of drawers slid across the floor, stopping short of the bed. Peggy watched in disbelief as a lamp toppled over, crashing to the ground. Fear gripped Peggy's heart. The house was alive with unseen forces. News of the strange occurrences spread like wildfire. As days turned into weeks, the paranormal activity intensified. Objects flew across the room with alarming force. Disembodied voices whispered menacingly in the darkness. The entity grew bolder, more aggressive. The Hodson children were at the epicenter, especially 11-year-old Janet. One evening, a deep, guttural voice boomed through the house. "My name is Bill," the voice rasped. "I died in this chair." The voice belonged to an elderly man who had passed away in the house. Janet became the primary target. She was levitated, thrown from her bed, and seemingly possessed by Bill. Her voice changed, taking on a deep, gravelly tone. The haunting took a sinister turn, and the family was at its mercy. The Society for Psychical Research, SPR, intrigued by the reports coming out of Enfield, dispatched investigators Morris Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair to 284 Green Street. Gross, a kind and compassionate man, was determined to help the Hodson family. Playfair, a seasoned investigator, approached the case with cautious skepticism. Upon entering the house, both men felt an oppressive atmosphere, a palpable sense of dread. They witnessed objects moving inexplicably, heard the disembodied voices, and saw the fear etched on the faces of the Hodson family. Even Playfair, a hardened skeptic, couldn't deny the strangeness of the events unfolding before his eyes. Gross and Playfair, armed with cameras and recording equipment, documented the paranormal activity meticulously. They interviewed the family, neighbours, and even police officers who had witnessed the events. The evidence, they soon realised, was overwhelming. Something unexplainable was happening at 284 Green Street. The investigators attempted to communicate with the entity using a combination of EVP recordings and séances. The entity, however, proved to be elusive and unpredictable, often resorting to taunts and threats. The haunting, it seemed, was far from over. The battle for the Hodson family and their home had just begun. The haunting continued for months, each day a terrifying ordeal for the Hodson family. Janet, subjected to the brunt of the entity's attacks, suffered the most. She was physically and emotionally drained, haunted by nightmares and visions. The once vibrant child was now a shadow of her former self. Despite the mounting evidence, skepticism surrounding the Enfield Poltergeist grew. Some dismissed it as a hoax, accusing Janet of faking the phenomena for attention. Others suggested that the family was experiencing a shared delusion, a collective hallucination brought on by stress. But for those who witnessed the events firsthand, there was no doubt that something sinister was at play. The evidence was too compelling to ignore. The Hodson family was trapped in a nightmare at the mercy of forces beyond their understanding. The haunting eventually subsided, the entity's grip on the house seemingly weakening. But the scars of that terrifying experience remained. The Hodson family, forever marked by the Enfield Poltergeist, tried to rebuild their lives. But the memories of that time, the fear and the uncertainty, continued to haunt them. The Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most compelling and controversial paranormal cases in history. Decades later, investigators and armchair enthusiasts alike continue to debate the authenticity of the events. Was it a genuine haunting, a manifestation of unseen forces, or was it an elaborate hoax, a figment of a disturbed child's imagination? Despite the skepticism, the Enfield Poltergeist captured the public's imagination, inspiring books, documentaries, and even a Hollywood film. The case continues to fascinate and terrify, a chilling reminder that there are some things in this world that defy rational explanation. For the Hodson family, the haunting was a life-altering experience, one that they could never truly escape. Janet, forever linked to the Enfield Poltergeist, carried the weight of that experience with her throughout her life. The mystery of what truly transpired at 284 Green Street remains unsolved, a chilling testament to the unknown forces that may lurk just beyond our perception. The Enfield Poltergeist serves as a stark reminder that we are not alone in this world. There are forces, both seen and unseen, that shape our lives in ways we may never fully comprehend. And sometimes those forces manifest themselves in the most terrifying and unexplainable ways imaginable.